The Force has always changed. Every film adds layers of complexity, the introduction of new powers, and shifts the overall way we think about the Force. I was on the Nerf Herder Council podcast last night, and those guys brought up even more that I never really thought about, especially when it comes to the prequels. If you guys haven't checked out Nerf Herder Council, be sure to do so. 3 friends who sit down, crack some beers, and shoot the shit about Star Wars. I had a blast. My episode should be coming out in a few days. Thanks for having me on, guys. So, adding layers to the Force mythos. Star Wars A New Hope started it all, obviously. In that film, we have the choke from Darth Vader. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi communicating to Luke from the beyond, use the Force, Luke, let go, Luke, all that jazz. We have Luke focusing and firing the proton torpedo without using his targeting computer. And we have Obi-Wan Kenobi using the Jedi mind trick. The Empire Strikes Back ramps everything up and adds quite a bit. It introduced Force Ghosts. It introduced moving stuff with your mind, as was the case with Luke and the Wampa, and it introduced levitation. It introduced connection through the Force, as was the case with Luke and Leia when Luke was hanging under Cloud City. We saw a Force vision on Dagobah between Luke and Vader, not to mention all the expository dialogue from Yoda that added complexity to this mysterious energy field. Empire added a lot. Return of the Jedi added even more. The biggest example is probably Force lightning from the Emperor. It introduced a form of mind reading or sensing what others are feeling. Luke felt conflict in his father. Vader says the Emperor has foreseen how powerful Luke is. The Emperor senses that Vader wants to continue searching for Luke Skywalker. The Emperor says the hate is swelling in you now. Overall, the Emperor added a ton to the Force mythos. And we saw the Jedi mind trick fail on Jabba. In The Phantom Menace, we saw Force speed when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are escaping incoming fire from the droidekas. And like it or not, we were given more information about the Force and midichlorians. We saw the Force power known as breath control when Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are being gassed, prophecy, and virgin birth. In Attack of the Clones, we saw Yoda absorb lightning that was shot from Count Dooku. Yoda says the dark side is clouding everything, inferring that Palpatine is able to hide his true intentions from the Jedi, almost putting up a Force roadblock, if you will, in front of other Force users. In Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine is talking to Anakin at the opera and tells him that it's possible to influence midichlorians to create life. And in a rough draft of that script, Palpatine actually tells Anakin that he, quote, used the power of the Force to will midichlorians to start the cell divisions that created you, close quote. So the ability to create life using the Force. In The Force Awakens, we see a visual depiction of the past and present when Rey is having her vision. We see where she was, where Kylo was. We hear the past, we see the future. We learn that a physical object like a lightsaber can, as far as it seems, almost have memories. Rogue One did it a little different. Instead of introducing a power, the film introduced a person. It introduced Chirrut Imwe, my favorite character from Rogue One. He's a character who is just a believer but lacks the ability. Even though the film wasn't about the Force or the Jedi, the movie was able to incorporate subtly the presence of the Force. Chirrut was overall a new Force introduction. Someone without the label of a Jedi or a Sith, but rather a simple believer, a man of faith, gifted but not supreme. Just as The Empire Strikes Back, the middle film in the original trilogy, introduced a ton of new Force stuff, so did the middle film in this new sequel trilogy, The Last Jedi. In The Last Jedi, we saw Yoda, a Force ghost, shooting lightning from the beyond. We saw Leia use telekinetic powers to bring herself to the ship in the vacuum of space, or maybe she brought the ship to her, I'm not too sure. My dad actually interpreted that scene as Kylo Ren saving his mom, who knows? Aside from that, Luke said he completely cut himself off from the Force, which is an interesting concept that I never even considered to be possible. We discovered that Snoke was able to bridge Rey and Kylo's minds and allow them to communicate with one another. And at the end, when Snoke was dead, Rey and Kylo seemed to be able to retain this power for themselves when Rey is about to jet off on the ship and Kylo looks up and sees her. We saw the rain on Kylo's glove, indicating some sort of physical transfer in this communication, which I think foreshadowed Luke's projection on Crate. And we were given that Force projection on Crate, when Luke is able to put himself there on the battlefield, but actually never leave the island. The Force has always shifted and changed. The Force has always been given layers of complexity with every chapter. That has always been the nature of every Star Wars installment. I probably forgot a lot of Force powers in this video that were used in these films. If I did, let me know down below. I cannot wait to see what they do with Episode 9. HelloGreedo, out.